So how has this whole coronavirus outbreak that we're so tired of hearing about affected the Boise real estate market? I bet you wanted to know. Well, I want to talk about that right now. Hey everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time here, feel free to subscribe down below. I come out with real estate videos every Tuesday. And my goal on this channel is to provide content that is useful for people that are living here in the Treasure Valley or are interested in relocating to this beautiful area. So feel free to subscribe, and also before I get started, be sure to stay tuned until the end where I talk about how the virus and the whole pandemic has affected the housing prices, the inventory, and the number of listings that we've seen over the past month. Okay, so number one, throughout this whole coronavirus pandemic, we've seen very low interest rates on mortgages. You may have heard your neighbor say something like we're at historic lows or something to that effect. Well, that's not true today. The average interest rate on a 30-year mortgage is low. Today it's at about 3.88%. I'm filming on April 1st. So it's low, but it's not historic low. If you go back to the beginning of last month, the beginning of March, the interest rate was even lower. It was at 3.13% on average on a 30-year loan. So what happened is at the beginning of the month, a lot of people ran to their local lenders and they said, we want to refinance our home. And so they got sort of swamped with this, with a bunch of refinancing loan applications. And this increase in demand raised the rate on mortgages. So that in the middle of the month, 2 weeks later, it had gone up about a percentage point. So on March 18th and 19th, it was sitting at about 4.15%. Now it's hovering, as I said, at around 3.88%. So it's low, but not record low. What that means is that if you are interested in buying a home, and you need a mortgage, it's a good time to get a mortgage because you can lock in a really low rate and a good rate. Number two, we've seen an increase in closing times. It typically takes about 30 days to close on a home, but I was listening to a prominent lender last week, and he was saying that he's telling his agents that they can't close in anything less than 45 days, maybe even 60 days. Number three, we're doing lots more digitally and online. Idaho has a closure on non-essential businesses, but the real estate industry is part of the housing market, the housing industry. So everything connected to that is deemed an essential business. So that's mortgage lenders, construction companies, title companies. Everything related to housing is deemed an essential business. People need houses. So we can continue to work, but we're doing a lot more online. And I'm told that they can do almost everything online. Title companies can do a lot of their background checks from home. A lot of lenders are working out of their home. Even appraisers, I'm told, can do appraisals virtually. So lots of social media and lots of online meetings and the things that we can do remotely, we're doing remotely. No open houses, and showings are a bit tricky, but we can do them. But we're just trying to keep contact away from people. Number four, there's been a few changes to the contracts. One of the major things is they've introduced a force majeure clause, which basically means that if there's some sort of an act of God, in this case, a virus outbreak, and that delays the performance on the contract, there's no penalty for that. So if you set a closing date and you're not able to meet that closing date because of the pandemic, then you're not going to be penalized for that. It also protects the agents. A lot of people have been wondering about that. If you as an agent bring a buyer into a home that happens to have COVID-19 and you didn't know that, and that client infected the household that he or she entered into, you can't be sued for that because there's no way for us to know if a client has the virus or not. So there's a clause that protects the agent. And number five, we've seen that this whole pandemic hasn't actually drastically affected the housing prices or the number of listings we've seen on the market. I did some research to see how many closings we had last month. And you can look at the chart here. We in our area, we had 2,029 homes close in March. Now, if you compare that to February, in February we had about 1,500 homes close. So we had an increase in 500 homes that closed last month. And then I did some further research and went back 15 years, all the way back to 2004, and I realized that March of 2020 actually had the most closings ever. And you can see the numbers there. Now go down to March of 2009 and 2008. That was the big housing crisis there. Notice the numbers are really low there, 700s, 900s. So big picture, I know there's a lot of numbers here. We're not in a 2008 and 2009 housing crisis. We're still selling homes. We're still there's still a lot of demand. Boise is still very much a seller's market. The median price is, in the $360,000 range. So the prices are still going up. We're doing a lot more virtually, a lot more online, but there's still a very low inventory, anywhere between a half of a month to a month and a half worth of inventory. So yes, coronavirus has affected our life. We're seeing less people person to person, but we're still buying and still selling homes. So let's hope that this doesn't affect us long term. But for the short term, things are going okay in the real estate market.